Please listen carefully.
The top 10 most written about ships on an Archive of Our Own are all male-male pairings.
Of course.
I think 0 of them are canon. And some of them are like real life pairings, like BTS dudes or whatever. So like that's what fanfiction is. And I hate myself because I am back in. I blame more than anything else Elliot. And I blame Nat for talking about the magicians in the first place in that one episode. What's up, sisters? Welcome back to another episode of Everyone and Their Sister. I'm Christina.
I'm Natasha.
And I'm Stephanie.
And today's episode, we are talking all about one-hit wonders. And what that can mean is a lot of things for either of us. It can be shows that only had one season that could have had so many more. Same movies or books that could have done that. Authors that only released a single book and it was amazing and then ran off the face of the earth. Anything like that. We kept it really open. We just want to talk about those things where you get a little nugget of something very, very interesting and then it is gone. It's gone forever. But before we talk about one-hit wonders, normally we do a little bit of chat before the beginning of our episode, and I'm trying to think of like what to go with here of like how are we all feeling. But I'm going to be honest with you, we all just spent the last hour talking about how depressed and anxious we all are about the state of everything that's happening in the world. So I don't know that we have it in us for just general chatter.
No, I don't think I have it.
I mean, nothing. We've got nothing. We've expelled to each other our worries, our regrets about life, our.
What are the listeners doing to make themselves feel better? Because I would like some help on that front because I can't find the motivation to do anything at all.
Do we all need like these happy lights that everybody has? Is that how people deal with it? Is that like a real thing that I need to invest in?
Should I be like making Zoom calls with people that are my friends? Because I'm sick of Zooms. Maybe I just need Netflix parties. I don't know.
I think let's all get those sunlight lamps, exactly what we were talking about, because I live in an apartment with no sun, so I haven't seen her in months.
I do live in a basement, yeah.
And let's just, I will say, I still look forward to recording this podcast every time we do it, even though the 10 minutes before we record it, I'm like, ugh, we got to do this again. But then we're in it, and I'm like, oh, this is what was I worried about? This is great. What if, I think on Twitter, we posed a question finding out if people liked our themed episode or our reviews episode more, just trying to understand, like, as we plan out for the year, should we focus on one or the other? How do people feel? And it was pretty split down the middle. People like of the people that answered,
the two people.
Yeah. Excuse me. It was at least 6. Thank you. I counted
6. Oh, I'm impressed.
Right. That's almost at the expected level of engagement for our follower count. But I think it was Marina that was like, I wish you had an episode every day. And I honestly think as we barrel further into depression, I'm like, yes, let's do that then. Why not?
Like, not even like edited. Let's just like go for it. Just like us chattering.
Why are we editing? Who cares?
The nonsense that comes out of my mouth sometimes.
If you listen to last week's episode, I barely edited it, and that was clear in the way some people's sentence structures came out.
The use of like has been around since the 1500s, so that's a fact.
So you can't even talk. I don't even remember a time where I didn't use the word like. I don't even notice it in conversation anymore. It's just there.
I thought that was like a Canadian specific thing, but apparently everyone does it.
I mean, I believe it.
I don't notice it when we're talking at all, but when I'm listening, do I notice every single one?
But do we like more than
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what it is, because I remember being in school and I don't think is drilled out of me entirely, but it was always a thing. Don't say when you're public speaking.
Yeah.
Don't actively try to avoid using But I feel like it's a necessary word element to conversation. So like has just completely replaced
Okay.
And with all of that said, with all of the existential dread in the world and with all of the like monitoring that we have in us, Steph, kick us off. What is your one-hit wonder pick?
So glad this day has come. Because I am 99.9% positive no one watched the show except for me, my sister, and maybe one other person. But that show is based on I'm going to set the scene. Maybe you're going to yell it out from the heavens because people will know. It was on ABC Family. ABC Family. ABC Family. I just want to get that point across. Came out in 2009. It was based on a popular teen movie. And this show that no one watched is 10 Things I Hate About You. And I can see people now be like, that was a show? What are you even talking about? I've never heard of this. Well, friends, it was literally based off the movie, and that's the whole plot. You have literally all the same characters. The dad is the same as the guy in the movie. The dad is the same, but then you have everyone else reliving that plot again. And it was legitimately good. I don't know what else to tell you. It was 30 minutes. It was called a sitcom, and it was legitimately funny. I remember laughing repeatedly about it. And it starred, which is wild when I think about, I'm looking at this list of characters right now. Hold on. I need to get their names. Can't screw up these lovely people. Larry Miller, Walter Stratford, same guy in the movie. Ethan Peck, guys, do you know who Ethan Peck is? He's a strong brow. He played the Heath Ledger character. Why are you laughing? He does have a strong brow.
I have no idea what he looks like.
He's the grandson of Gregory Peck, who was on an ABC Family sitcom. Just want to buckle down on that lovely
It's
thing.
a legacy.
He was in Passport to Paris, which is wild to think about. I don't know what he's been doing recently, but he was our moody, broody main character. Which, you know what, I felt it. I was into it. Lindsay Shaw, she was on Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. She was Kat.
A whole throwback. Ned's Declassified
School Survival. She was brilliant in this. I loved her to death because of this. Megan Martin was Bianca, and she is from Camp Rock. She was like the enemy of Demi Lovato. And then you have Nicholas Braun, who was the guy that's in love with Bianca. And he is now Cousin Greg or Craig. I can't. It doesn't matter. In Succession. And he was also brilliant. We had a lot of tall, strong, strapping young men in this show, which is a pity that it didn't even make it to season 2. No one even gave the lightest of shits about this TV show. And it was a tragedy because, like I said, funny. Yeah, it's not mind-blowing. The plot was the same as everything else, but it was legitimately funny. And I own this on DVD because I was such a fan of it. And I just want to point out that it has 7.3 on IMDb, which is not a bad rating. 88% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's really good.
And it was good, guys. I don't know where you could find this now.
So I looked him up. I looked up Ethan Peck online. And this is where I'm being mindful of language again.
Okay.
And when you said strong brow, I did not realize how strong you meant. Like, very strong brow. Like, I was like, oh, that is very, like, we're thinking, like, Cro-Magnon era, like, that.
He's Gregory Peck's grandson. And
they look nothing alike.
They do a bit.
I mean,
like this half, the bottom, the nose and the mouth.
He's basically like a taste of Gregory Peck. He's like a diluted Gregory Peck with I can't imagine what his mother looks like.
I mean, literally, I don't think this is on any streaming platform at the moment. I don't know one way in which unless you call me up, you email me, I'll email you the DVDs for you to watch.
No, it's probably on Disney Plus.
Holy shit. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And like they own the other 10 Things I Hate About You, so
yeah, so it's probably on Disney Plus.
This is stuff from the future, and she'd like everyone to know that it is not on Disney Plus. To repeat, 10 Things I Hate About You, the TV show, is not on Disney Plus. Who knows where it is right now?
I mean, again, I probably haven't watched it since 2009, so is it even funny anymore? Who's to say?
I like that you own the DVD. There's something about that I really enjoy.
I used to buy a lot of DVDs. Like I have Vampire Diaries, I have One Tree Hill, Gilmore Girls, Gossip Girl. Like there was a period of like 4 years that I was like, I'm gonna buy these DVDs because I'm gonna watch these. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Pity it was canceled, but do I want to see more TV shows based off films? No. I would like other things.
You know what?
That
There are some things where I'm like, this movie could have been a show for sure.
yes, agree with that. For example, Shadowhunters should have never been a movie first. I don't know what people were thinking, but then the show
It's
came.
true, because the show is a million times better.
So, and then there's stuff coming out on Netflix, which I'm going to be talking about in our next episode. Shanice, are you listening? It's directed at you. That I'm interested to see how they're going to transform into TV shows from books. But do I need another Sex and the City TV show? No. Do I need any other recreations? No. Because you know why? But there's so many things out there in the world, and I can see you guys both have lit up with your opinions.
I have so many opinions about the Sex and the City reboot, and I will keep them to myself for this episode because I don't want it to be 9 hours. But I think the crux of them are simply why. Simply, why does it need to exist? It does not stop it.
You know how many romance novels there are that could be TV shows? Many.
Like,
And I'm
look
living off the high of a second season of Bridgerton, okay?
Look how well Bridgerton did. Like, it's like at the top right now. Why wouldn't you just do that with every other romance novel that we want? Thank you.
Are you listening, show executives? Is this when I make my own production company? Based on my zero experience, being like, that's what I'm going to do today. If they can do it for Game of Thrones, I can do it for every romance series I ever read that I really enjoyed. So that's it. That's all I have to say. And Nat, you're next. like Nat, you're next. I can't say.
I'm like so next.
You're like totally next.
My pick for one hit wonder, it was kind of hard to pick one because I feel like I always stop shows at one season when I'm like, this was good enough. Or like, no, I usually stop shows when I'm like, no, I'm not gonna watch the rest. So I don't have like a lot of like good, I guess it doesn't have to be a show, it could be like a movie, whatever, but like I don't have like a lot of good experiences with things. I stop at one. So I decided to pick something that only had one season out and it just got canceled. And like, listen, I know a lot of people have negative things to say about the show. I don't give a shit. My one hit wonder is Ghosted, which I don't even remember when it came out. It must have been like
I don't think I've ever heard of a show.
It must have been only a few years ago.
yeah, like I can't imagine it was that long. Oh, it was 2017. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was only out, like it only came out in 2017, which is hard for me to believe. Like I feel like it's been 20 years since then. But whatever. Basically this show stars Adam Scott and Craig Robertson, aka Andy Samberg's nemesis and BFF in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, obviously.
Doug Judy.
Doug Judy. And just that alone, that combination alone was enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this. Like, why would I not watch this? Like, it's obviously gonna be great. And like, the show already has a premise that I'm interested in. It has two actors that I was like, yeah, this is a combination that I'm into. It like had the Andy Samberg feel with Craig Robertson feel. So I was like, yeah, I'll go for it. So Adam Scott is a believer of the paranormal, working at a bookstore as a bookseller. And he ends up teaming up with Craig Robertson, who is a paranormal skeptic. He works as like a mall cop, I think. Or security guard, something like that. He's in a uniform at some point, which is very opposite to what his uniform in Brooklyn Nine-Nine is. And they basically investigate X-Files style happenings to save the world or whatever. They get like hired. I don't think it's the FBI. It might be the CIA or something like that in like this underground sort of company, like a side thing, kind of like SHIELD from MCU. That's what I have on my mind because I clearly have just been watching Marvel movies this whole time, so that's the only thing I can think of.
Nothing like SHIELD, but I see where you're going.
Nothing like SHIELD, but you know, like a little niche little group off of whatever government organization that like nobody knows about but everybody knows about. Anyway, so you find out that Adam Scott's sister was abducted by aliens at some point, and so this is why he believes in all these things, and it's like a whole thing. Like he's just like they'll like encounter things. Like I think at some point they encounter like a time travel like transponder or like you can like move around the world and through time or whatever, and like Craig Robertson is like, what is that? And like Adam Scott is like, that's clearly like a blah blah blah, and he like lists off what it is. Like it's clearly alien tech, and you're just like, what? And he's like done his research, so he's like that crazy like conspiracy theory guy, but he's also like into the aliens and whatnot. So yeah, like the whole vibe is like very funny, very like silly. It's only like a 22-minute episode. Like it's like a regular like sitcom style thing. And I believe it was on Fox as well. So of course they canceled it after one season because they were like, we can't have something that's this funny. They canceled it. I was really disappointed because I very much enjoyed it. Like it wasn't like it's not like the deep level of hilarious that Brooklyn Nine-Nine brings, or it's not like something that like can continue for a very long time, but I definitely thought we could have done with at least 2 more seasons. Like it was funny enough that I was like, I would still watch this. This combination is hilarious. The hijinks they get up to, classic. I don't care if it's like a trope or whatever. I love it. I want more of this. I want more Craig Robertson on my screen. Thank you very much. And it's just like the whole thing was like so funny, and it got canceled after the one season, and I believe
I'm sure it was low ratings press perception because I don't understand this. People fucking hated that show.
I don't know why. It was funny.
Yeah, it was good.
And also like, okay.
Oh, they did not advertise it.
It kind of gave me like the same vibes of like even like Trial and Error, where like
Oh
it's
yeah.
like that subtle, like it's not like subtle humor, but it's like
Yeah, not at all.
everything is like a nod to something at some point, which you know we love.
We do love.
I love a referential humor.
I would say too, it doesn't make sense. It's not really like this show at all, but I do think that if you enjoyed Timeless,
Oh yeah.
and a mix of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but a little less funny, admittedly, is kind of where this show netted out.
Yeah.
But I do think it's one of those shows where if it had just had a season 2, it would have been funnier.
Yeah. I think it just needed
time.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes they made was have this be like, I think it was like maybe 14 to 16 episodes. I think they could have started off shorter and then like kind of figured out what like people were not happy about and then done something better in the second season. Like it was one of those shows where they definitely could have just learned from the audience. But yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about Ghosted. I very much enjoyed it. Do I remember everything? Absolutely not. It's been like a billion years, okay?
What I also really enjoyed about that show that I was thinking of while you were talking was Adam Scott in particular. I love Adam Scott. Give me a little nerd any day. I hate myself. But I really liked him in that show because he was low-key totally unhinged.
Yes!
He was somehow the straight man nerd character, but also the absolutely wild, insane character that made no sense and just genuinely believed the most insane things. And then sometimes they would be true. And you'd be like, what is happening?
So like when I was first trying to think of like the show for One Hit Wonder or whatever, I was like, oh yeah, Ghosted was one I really enjoyed. I was like, oh yeah, it was a skeptic and somebody that believed in the paranormal. I honestly, in my head, had mixed up who was the skeptic. I kept thinking it was Craig Robertson that was the one that believed in the paranormal and was like into it. And then I was like, oh no, they did the opposite in this one where that's one of the things that hooked me in the beginning because I was so shocked by it. And I don't know why it was shocking. It was just like Adam Scott just didn't seem like that type of character, but then he was, and it was like even like there's a scene, and I remember this scene in like the bookshop where a woman is talking about something about like a book or something like that, and he comes up to her subtly and she's like, can you believe that about like something really ridiculous? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes into this like crazy tangent, and I was like like the shock on my face of that first moment where he does that reveal and you're like, oh, he is unhinged.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Adam Scott doesn't look like a person who believes in anything.
Yeah.
Like, very much that's his energy. And I love that about him. I love Adam Scott in Party Down and Parks and Rec. This is very much a character that is him. And I feel that in Ghosted, he was very much his typical character with a much needed breath of fresh air in being absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
But also, as you're talking, I feel like maybe you identify a little bit with the Adam Scott character.
Maybe I do.
Just as you were talking, I was like, was Adam Scott just not in that show?
Like just me going up to random people and be like, let me tell you about them aliens.
I can see that for you.
But yeah, it was so good. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I'm sad that one ended for sure.
Yeah, although like I mean like I guess I don't miss it enough to be like demanding another season.
No, this does not. If anybody is out here leading a bring back Ghosted hashtag campaign, you need to stop. It's not that deep. But if you can catch the show somewhere, like if it ends up streaming anywhere, you know what? That is a lovely afternoon, you know?
Or like use that concept, make something new from it. I don't know. I feel like it could do well.
I'm sure there were problematic elements to it because I do remember there occasionally being some dicey stuff in it, but you just need to remake it. That's it.
Yeah,
just need to
shows that you actually should remake.
Yeah,
let's try again with these one-hit wonders.
Maybe that's a future episode.
Maybe.
Things that actually should be remade, and then we can talk about how Sex and the City is not fucking one of them because you don't need to be remade when you had 7 seasons and 2 fucking movies.
And also, like, wasn't Amelie in Paris just like redone Sex and the City?
It was just a different flavor. They were like, add a little bit of spice if the spice is butter. Like, it was not a thing.
Anyway, Christina, what is your one-hit wonder?
So my one-hit wonder is a show I am 99% positive I don't think anybody has heard of, particularly people listening. And I'm going to give a little background as to why. So and let me get my year right, okay? Because I want to be right about this. In 2011, the series, this is not the show I'm picking, but Pan Am came out. And Pan Am was a show that was set in the 1960s, and it was about the...
Where are you going with this?
Oh, I'm taking you on a journey. Sit back, relax, settle in, get your snacks out. We're going to go on a little moment here. So the year is 2011. And the show Pan Am comes out that features, honestly, it's starring Margot Robbie, Christina Ricci, a ton of really big names. And it's set in the 1960s, and it's about the airline Pan Am, and specifically a bunch of stewardesses on Pan Am and like the life of an airline stewardess. And it was very much a response to that sort of Mad Men vibe. So again, we're taking you from Mad Men to now Pan Am to then eventually the show I'm going to pick, just to keep you on track. And it was about the aesthetic more than the actual show, but the show was fine. And I believe it even ended up getting a second season, despite the fact that, it just got the one. I could have sworn it had 2, but it was very popular. People really liked it in terms of aesthetics. I don't know that people really watched that much, but it was so hyped up right before that beginning episode that a bunch of other shows that were also set in the 1960s, springboarding off of Mad Men and then springboarding after Pan Am, which was also sort of the lead into, that a bunch of those started flooding the market. And there's one in particular that I want to talk about because I think this one is so fascinating. This show aired for 3 episodes. It had a 8-episode season run. They filmed the entire season, but the network literally pulled the plug on it after 3 episodes. And this show was called The Playboy Club. And right off the bat, you hear that name and you're like, okay, I'm glad that you pulled it off the show. Because very much, this is one of the shows that I only started watching, because I think it may be similar to Elementary. I was looking to understand why I would dislike it. The promos for the Playboy Club didn't look good. It was going to be set in the 1960s. It was going to be about a Playboy Club and specifically a couple of women that were Playboy bunnies working in this Playboy Club in 1960 Chicago. So there was a lot around that I was like, this is not going to be well done. Like, a bunch of men are making the show. The show's going to be an excuse for a lot of really bullshit nonsense. I know I'm going to be unhappy with this, but I would like to understand why. Like, I want to see what they do so I can be informed in my complaints, because I like to be mad about things. But you know who I don't like to be mad about things more than? The people who surpass me in their ability to be mad about stuff. The fucking Million Moms Facebook group, or whatever the fuck they are. Because this show had not even come out yet. It had maybe a trailer, a picture, and it's just been announced. And the fucking Million Moms group was so fucking enraged that NBC or Fox or whoever the hell was putting out the show would dare make a show about the Playboy Club, that before the show even came on, they went on this massive, massive complaint of, you need to stop the show. You shouldn't even air it. How dare you air this thing that sexualizes women? And then there's that, and it's like, bro, have you watched modern day TV? Like, what is happening here? It was insane, the premature reaction people were having to the show. And as someone that was anticipating it was not going to be well done, I was smack dab in the middle of, I don't think the show's going to be good, but also you're overreacting. So I don't know how I feel about this, and I don't know whose side I'm on, but I know I don't like the fucking Million Moms launch or whatever who gets annoyed every time anything remotely sexual happens on TV. Like, not all TV is made for your kids, Karen. God. And that brings us around to what this show actually was. So again, it was set in the original Playboys Club in 1960 Chicago. It had a couple of big names in it. The person I always remember the most is actually Simon from Firefly. Sean Maher was in it. And it starts off, and it wasn't anything like I expected. It was enjoyable. It was interesting. It touched upon things I did not anticipate it was going to touch upon at all. I really thought this was going to be a show about a woman who was forced into becoming a Playboy bunny, because that was very much, like, honestly, that was very much the like thing that they were showing in, was like this was sort of a last resort, trying to pick her life up kind of thing that they were going for, is her being the main character. And that it was going to be really bad. But I think it's the end of the first episode, or even the end of the third episode, there's a ton of conversation happening about how the 1960s is the start of a lot of civil rights movements. And in particular, there are these two characters where they're a married couple, but both characters are gay. And they're part of the Playboy Club, and they're using a lot of the crime connections in the Playboy Club. It's actually, it's Sean Maher's character who is running for office, I believe, and has this like perfect wife. But then at night in his house, they're running civil rights meetings for LGBT, like the community underground. And like, what do they do? What is their next step? Do they stay married? And there's all this really interesting, you just get a gleam of it, a little glimmer of what could be, because the show stopped after 3 episodes. So you have no idea where they were going to take it. But it literally looked like it was going to start having a conversation about being in the closet versus being not, versus what was dangerous in the 1960s, versus why was it harder for, his wife to end up coming out, because if they ever got divorced or anything happened there, she would be screwed, versus how it would be different for him. Like, it had a lot of things that it wanted to touch on. It's just not a very diverse show. It was very, very white, but there was a couple of black characters on it, particularly bunnies. And there was a touching on why it was different for them to be bunnies and what that meant, and the access to a kind of respect that it gave them and a kind of freedom it gave them, while also absolutely not giving them access to that at all. Like, it looked like it might genuinely talk about the double-edged sword of sexuality and something like Playboy Club as being empowering, while also not, like, the ways that it can be and the ways that it can't be. Because on the one hand, you're owning yourself, you're making money off of something that people would have tried to take for you for free anyway, but also you're in this very patriarchal, very dangerous club as well, because Playboy Club was also like a huge mob center for crime. I think that was one of the things about it too. So there's just like, it's one of the reasons I wanted to pick it is because I genuinely couldn't even tell you if this was going to be great or not. It never had the chance. It had 3 episodes that were so much better than Pan Am and so much more empowering than Pan Am ever was. Pan Am was out there like, we're going to tell the story of empowered women in the 1960s because they were airline stewardesses, so they had their own income, they didn't have to be married, all that stuff. And it ended up portraying women in a far more one-dimensional light than 3 fucking episodes of this show did. And this show got pulled off the air because of, like, yes, low ratings, but also because this fucking Million Mom March Facebook club that were probably fucking watching Pan Am the night after.
So, like, as you were talking about this, I was like, why does this sound familiar now? I watched this show. I, like, looked it up and I was like, I feel like somebody I knew was in it. It was Jenna Dewan and Amber Heard were in it. Amber Heard was in it too, which, like, but, like, now, but at the time it was like, I remember watching this probably mostly because of Jenna Dewan and the guy from Firefly. But I think at the time when they had pulled the show, we found out later also, like, even though Sean was playing a closeted gay man, he was actually closeted at the time when he was playing it as well. From what I remember, the actor was closeted at the time and then he came out after that.
Okay, I thought he was out at the time, but it's been 10 years, so I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't fully remember, but I think, like, there's, like, a whole thing. I remember because, like, I was still, like, I just had finished school, and, like, the club I was part of was like, you have to watch this. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, let's watch this. And then I did, and then there were, like, 3 episodes, that's it.
Yeah,
and I was like,
and this is what kills me even more, to put this out there. a whole season of this show exists. They decided, NBC or whatever was like, make the whole show, and even if we don't air it, we'll try to sell it to another network. But no one ever bought it, and those 5 episodes never aired. They simply exist, and they're not on, to the best of my knowledge, not on any streaming service. It's not possible to watch anything other than those 3 episodes. And that's crazy to me because they exist somewhere. It's not like you just were told to stop filming entirely. You made the show, a show that I think probably could have lasted for only 1 season and probably been fine. But I so desperately want to know, how far could this show have gone? Could it have done, I don't think it ever would have done a great job, to be honest. Just the fact that it was created by men, I just don't believe, I'll be super real, I don't believe that it could have gone where it needed to go. But how far could it have gone? And how good could it have been? Especially an answer to a bunch of people who were, even my first reaction was, this is going to be not only a piece of shit, it's going to be super offensive. So it would be so interesting to see where that line could have been, the conversations it could have had, and then 3 episodes. Goodbye. Never to see it again.
A shame. This could be on like our episode of things that should get rebooted or remade.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch a newer version of this. I also think it could definitely come out in 2020 and not get the response it got in 2011. There was a moment where that Million Moms Facebook group was having people were talking about them a lot. They seem to have some kind of impact, even though they did not have 1 million moms. That has always been a fucking lie, okay? It's been 6 women, 6 white ladies, too fucking bored to do anything else with their day. But I'd love to see what, okay, HBO. Don't make Sex in the City. HBO, make this show, but hire a woman and women of color showrunners and people to actually make this show, because there was something genuinely interesting there. And I think even for me watching it in 2011, it had the potential to open up a different thought process. Because again, I went into it thinking there's no way this is going to be good. This is going to be super exploitive. You're not going to tell this story well. You can't tell this story well, is what I genuinely believed. But after 3 episodes, I was like, oh, but now I want to see what somebody telling the story well would look like. Like, open some minds, make some good, interesting content. Make it, and then just don't call it the Playboy Club. Like, I think that's another thing. I did not love that it supported, like, Playboy itself and Hugh Hefner in particular.
Yeah.
Just make it something else. There were lots of clubs like this. You could do that. Make them cats. I don't give a fuck. For the furry community. Just make it animals. But on that note, that's all of our picks. Once again, I picked the Playboy Club.
I picked Ghosted.
I picked 10 Things I Hate About You.
I saw that little eye look you did where you had to remember, like, wait, what did I pick? Thank you guys so much for listening. And we thank you for keeping with that tangent that we went on, where we just stopped talking about the Playboy Club and started talking about furry. And it's just because we're having a great time and everybody's completely hinged and sane, and quarantine is not affecting us at all, and second lockdown is not affecting us at all. Is it still January? Apparently. This is just your regular check-in that somehow it's still fucking January.
We're in an age of Aquarius. What that means, no one can say.
I love that I knew this was going to come up at some point today.
I've been
now
waiting.
We're officially in it. What day is it? The 22nd, 23rd. Yeah, we're in 2 days. 2 days in.
You're about to start living your best life.
Apparently.
So thank you guys again so much for listening. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at EatsCast, or on Pinterest at Everyone and Their Sister Pod. Let us know what your one-hit wonders are. Were you somebody that somehow watched any of the 3 shows that we talked about? Because I do think we did deep down into things that I think are not very common knowledge and not very watched shows. So let us know if you saw the 3 episodes of the Playboy Club that existed or anything else. And let us know if you have any ideas for episodes, if there's anything you want us to talk about, if there's anything you want us to review. I hope you stick around for next week. We're very, very excited. We're going to be talking about The Project by Courtney Summers. And not just are we going to be talking about it, we will be interviewing her. So we will have our first friend of the pod, who is not just our regular friend in real life. And so we're really excited.
Yay!
And that's us for next week. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Music goes to artists Squarebell for the song Wallflower, and Jazzfire for the song Please Listen Carefully.
I googled Ethan Peck while you were talking, and
Check your modem or router connection and try again.
I shouldn't have said the G word.